Good afternoon, dear students of grade 12, dear teachers, dear colleagues, dear everyone watching us. Welcome to this seminar. We're going to present about Unit 7 Literary Section. At the beginning, allow me to introduce my colleagues in the studio. Ms. Ula Al-Mou'i, English Language Supervisor, Tartus Directorate. Welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
And Mr. Fadil Al-Abboud, English Language Teacher, Aleppo Directorate. Welcome, Mr. Fadil.
Good afternoon.
And this is me, Abdul Majid Ogorli, Senior Supervisor and Coordinator of English Curriculum. It's going to be, as I mentioned at the beginning, Unit 7, Literary Section, MR series, MR English series. Ms. Ula Al-Mou'i is going to start. The floor is yours.
Okay. In this unit, we're going to start as usual with listening, and with listening, we have to ask to listen for specific information and ask a few questions. With the speaking, again, we have to ask and give information about a book we have read or something. Reading is about prose, a genre of literature, and writing is a paragraph about the benefits of reading. We have also grammar. It's about conditional, the second and third conditionals. With pronunciation, we're going to have some words with silent letters, and vocabulary is about phrasal verbs and prepositional phrases. With everyday English, we have on-the-phone terms.
Good, thank you so much. As usual, we usually start with the listening. We're going to start our listening by listening a first time to say what the audio is about. Then we listen a second time to answer for details. Let's start the audio.
Agatha Christie is one of the world's best known and best loved authors. Her famous detectives and her brilliantly constructed plots have caught the imagination of generations of readers. Although she lived to an old age and wrote many books, she did not reveal much about her personal life. In December 1926, an incident occurred which would have made a fascinating detective story in itself. At the top of her success with her first novel, she apparently disappeared suddenly for 10 days. At the time, she was extremely anxious because of her divorce. She was sleeping badly, she couldn't write, and she was eating very little. On Friday the 3rd of December, Agatha told her secretary and companion, Carlo, she wanted a day alone. When Carlo returned in the evening, she found that the garage doors had been left open, and the maids were looking frightened. Mrs. Christie had left quickly without saying anything, and the police found no trace of her. Agatha's disappearance was a mystery and caused a lot of suspicion. The mystery ended 10 days later, when Agatha was found alive and well in a health spa in Yorkshire. Her husband declared that she had lost her memory, but to this day, nobody really knows what happened during these missing 10 days.
Well, this was the first time of listening. We are going to talk as students about what is the audio about. Ms. Ula?
Okay, it's about the life and some of the works of Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie, the famous writer.
Yes, and mysterious disappearance for 10 days. Well, this is a general idea. So it's about personal life and achievements, and it ended with disappearance.
Thank you. Now we are going to listen a second time for details.
Agatha Christie is one of the world's best known and best loved authors. Her famous detectives and her brilliantly constructed plots have caught the imagination of generations of readers. Although she lived to an old age and wrote many books, she did not reveal much about her personal life. In December 1926, an incident occurred which would have made a fascinating detective story in itself. At the top of her success with her first novel, she apparently disappeared suddenly for 10 days. At the time, she was extremely anxious because of her divorce. She was sleeping badly, she couldn't write, and she was eating very little. On Friday the 3rd of December, Agatha told her secretary and companion, Carlo, she wanted a day alone. When Carlo returned in the evening, she found that the garage doors had been left open, and the maids were looking frightened. Mrs. Christie had left quickly without saying anything, and the police found no trace of her. Agatha's disappearance was a mystery and caused a lot of suspicion. The mystery ended 10 days later, when Agatha was found alive and well in a health spa in Yorkshire. Her husband declared that she had lost her memory, but to this day, nobody really knows what happened during these missing 10 days.
Well, Mr. Aboud, will you please read the first question?
Okay. Agatha Christie's plot have caught the of generations of readers: spirit, imagination, world, and money. Of course, the correct answer is imagination.
Imagination. Yes, thank you. Ms. Ula, number 2.
Okay, number 2. Agatha Christie's personal life was clear, mysterious, silly, or ugly. Well, it was mysterious, just like her works.
Mysterious, thank you. Mr. Fadil Aboud, number 3.
She apparently disappeared suddenly for days, 10, 20 to 8. Of course, for 10 days.
It was 10 days. Thank you. Number 4, Ms. Saula.
Number 4. The police found no of her. A. Money, B. Friends, C. Trace, or D. Books. The police found no trace of her.
No trace. Thank you so much. Mr. Aboud.
Agatha's disappearance was a mystery and caused a lot of sarcasm, fun, discussion, and suspicion. The answer is letter D, suspicion.
Suspicion. Thank you. Ms. Saula.
And her husband declared that she had lost her memory, money, method, or mirror. She had lost her memory.
Memory, exactly. We come to the second skill, which is speaking. Always we say teachers need to let their students practice speaking by either showing them a picture or some pictures to talk about, or they can write a situation to their students, and then the students practice speaking according to these situations. Here we have some questions. Students may answer with each other in pairs or in groups. Ms. Ula, will you please read the questions?
Okay, since we are talking about prose, here we have a questions that are related to the same topic. Discuss these questions with your partner. Now we can present the questions like, what story have you read recently? We have to encourage
the students
to say stories they have read. If they didn't give answer, we can give them choices like, have you read Cinderella? Have you read something else? Where and when does the story take place? We can elicit again the answers. What kind of language does the story use? Maybe informal language, formal language,
slang,
everyday. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
What moral lesson does the story tell? So every story has a moral.
A moral, yes.
What is the moral in this story, and how does the story make you feel? And again, we can give examples. Does it make you feel happy, sad, excited, etc.?
So the student can express
themselves.
their feelings.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Then we come to prose, a genre of literature. Prose, I'm going to read if you allow me.
Please.
Is it okay?
Do it.
Of course.
Thank you. You're very generous.
Thank you.
Prose is a form of language that has no formal metrical structure. It applies a natural flow of speech and ordinary grammatical structure rather than rhythmic structure, such as in the case of traditional poetry. Normal everyday speech is spoken in prose, and most people think and write in prose form. Prose is composed of full grammatical sentences which consist of paragraphs and ignores aesthetic appeal in favor of clear, direct language. It can be said to be the mirror of informal speech. Some works of prose do have versification, and a mix of the two formats is called prose poetry. Common types of prose. Number one, non-fictional prose, a literary work that is mainly based on fact, may contain fictional elements in certain cases to express thoughts and ideas of the speaker. The form of writing is often hard and persuasive and suits the occasion to convey a specific message. 2. Fictional prose, a literary work that is wholly or partly imagined or theoretical. This is usually written in the form of a narrative and may be entirely a fabrication of the author's imagination, as in novels. Number 3. Heroic prose, a literary work that may be written down or recited, employs many of the standards expressions found in oral traditions, as in legends, tales, and plays. To some extent, prose written in plays aims to be dramatic and eventful. However, in plays, prose is often in conversational mode and is produced by a character. Thus, this style stays the same throughout the play according to the personality of the character. Number 4, prose poetry, a literary work that exhibits poetic quality using emotional effects and enhanced imagery, which are written in prose instead of verse. Function of prose. The reason for prose acceptance can be attributed to its loosely defined structure, which most writers feel comfortable using when expressing or conveying their ideas and thoughts. It is the standard style of writing used for most spoken dialogues, fictional as well as topical and factual writing and discourses. It is also the common language used in newspapers, magazines, literature, encyclopedias, broadcasting, philosophy, law, history, the sciences, and many other forms of communication. The text is finished.
Okay.
The floor is with Miss Ola to start reading the first question.
Okay, now we
Please.
have to choose A, B, C, or D. Number 1, prose is a form of language that applies A, natural flow of speech, rhythmic structure, B, formal metrical structure, C, rhythmic structure, and D, poetic form. The answer is A, natural flow of
Natural
speech.
flow of speech. Thank you so much. Mr. Fadil Aboud, will you
Prose.
please read number 2?
Thank you, sir. Prose ignores A, full grammatical sentences, B, paragraphs, B, aesthetic appeal,
C, aesthetic appeal.
C, aesthetic appeal, and D, clear and direct language. The answer is letter C, aesthetic appeal.
Yes, thank you. Number 3.
Number 3, the work of prose that have versification and a mix of two formats is called A, heroic prose, B, non-fictional prose, C, fictional prose, or D, prose poetry. It's letter D, prose poetry.
Here are the answers. Number 1, natural flow of speech. Number 2, aesthetic appeal. And number 3, prose poetry. Number 4, Mr. Fadil Aboud, please.
To express thoughts and ideas of the speaker, non-fictional prose may contain A, theories, B, poems, C, fictional elements, D, historical features. The answer is letter C, fictional elements.
Fictional elements. Number 5, Ms.
Number
Ola.
5, heroic prose in plays stays the same throughout the play according to the A, personality of the playwright, B, literary work, C, personality of the character, or D, author's imagination. It stays the same according to the personality of the character, letter C.
Thank you so much. Number 6, Mr. Fadil Aboud.
Prose is widely accepted and used by most writers because of its A, loosely defined structure, B, formal form, C, poetic quality, D, fabrication. The letter A is the correct answer, which is loosely defined structure.
So the answers for 4, 5, and 6, number 4, C, fictional elements, number 5, personality of the character, and number 6, loosely defined structure. Now we move to the workbook. Charles Dickens, the famous writer.
Right.
Mr. Fadl Aboud, will you please read?
Of course. Thank you. Charles Dickens, famous British author Charles John Huffam Dickens, was born on February 7th, 1812 in Portsmouth, a port city in southern England. He was the second of 8 siblings. His father, John Dickens, was a marine writer, and he dreamed that the profession would make him rich. His mother, Elizabeth Barrow, rose to become a teacher and then a school principal. Despite his parents' best efforts, the family remained poor. Nevertheless, the family was happy in its early days. In 1816, the family moved to Chatham, Kent, where Charles and his brothers were free to roam the countryside and explore old Rochester Castle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fadl. Mr. Ola, will you continue, please?
Yes, sure. In 1822, the family moved to Camden, a poor district of London. During this period, the family's economic conditions deteriorated, and his father was imprisoned in 1824, when Charles was only 12 years old. As a result of his father's imprisonment, Charles Dickens had to drop out of school and work in a boat painting factory beside the Thames. This was the best he could do to help his family, bidding his childish innocence, and this incident became a recurring theme in his writing. After a while, he was allowed back to school after his father received a family inheritance, which he used to pay off his debts. But when Dickens was 15, he was again denied an education, and in 1827 he had to drop out of school and work as a courier in an office to contribute to his family's income. As it turned out, this work became an early stepping stone towards his work as a writer. A year after starting his career in the office, Dickens began his work as a freelance report writer in London law courts. Only a few years later, he became a reporter for 2 major newspapers in London. In 1833, he began presenting skits to various magazines and newspapers under the pseudonym Bose. His first stories were published in his first book in 1836, Sketches by Bose. Dickens' writing became so popular with readers that he began publishing his first novel, Oliver Twist, as episodes in a newspaper telling the tale of an orphan living on the streets. The story was inspired by the feeling of Dickens, a poor child forced to make a living through his own wits. Oliver Twist readers have been eagerly awaiting the next monthly episode. In 1859, Dickens published A Tale of Two Cities, a historical novel set at the time of the French Revolution. In 1865, Dickens had a train accident and never fully recovered from it. Despite his unhealthy conditions, he continued to wander until 1870. On June 9, 1870, Dickens suffered a stroke and died at the age of 58 in Gats Hills, his country town in Kent, England.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We read and we understood it. It was about Charles Dickens, his life, his books. We have some questions to answer. Mr. Fadl Aboud, will you please read number 1?
Yeah. Now we are going to choose the correct answer from A, B, C, or D. Number 1, Charles Dickens is from A, France, B, Britain, C, America, D, Canada. The correct answer is from Britain.
Britain. Thank you so much. Number 2, Ms.
Number
Ola.
2, it's about Charles Dickens' father's job. He was A, British author, B, teacher, C, school principal, or D, marine writer. It's letter D, he was a marine writer.
Marine writer. Number 3, Mr. Aboud.
Thank you. When Charles was only 12 years old, A. The family moved to Qatar. B. His father was imprisoned. C. The family was happy. D. He was denied an education. The correct answer is B. His father was imprisoned.
Yes. We move to number 4, Miss Ola.
Number 4, Charles Dickens' first novel is called Oliver Twist, Gat's Hills, A Tale of Two Cities, or The French Revolution. Of course, it's letter A, Oliver Twist,
Oliver
the first
Twist.
novel.
Thank you. Mr. Aboud.
Oliver Twist was published A. every month, B. weekly, C. on February 7th, 1812, D. as a book. The correct answer is A. every month.
Every month. Number 6, Miss.
Number 6, A Tale
Ola.
of Two Cities is a historical novel set at the time of A. his birth, B. his death, C. the French Revolution, or D. the accident. It was set at the French Revolution, letter C.
Yes. Thank you so much. Now we move to the second part, which is vocabulary. In vocabulary, we are going to have, like in the exam, a sentence. Then we have 4 choices to choose one of these 4 choices, multiple choice answers. Number 1, Mr. Fadil, will you please do it?
Of course, willingly. Is mainly based on fact and comprises realistic items. Poetry, fictional prose, versification, non-fictional prose. Of course, non-fictional prose is mainly based on fact and comprises realistic items.
So, correct answer is letter
D.
D. Ms. Ola,
Number 2, space, uses evidence-based logic to illustrate an opinion or point of view. A. Persuasive writing, B. Aesthetic, or C. A legend, or D. Writing poetry. It's the persuasive writing, letter
Persuasive writing, yes. Number 3, Mr. Fadil Aboud.
His poetry, a great sense of religious devotion. A. Accepts, B. Believes, C. Conveys, and D. Distinguishes. The correct answer is C, which is conveys.
Conveys. Thank you so much, Ms. Ola.
Number 4, prose ignores, appeal in favor of clear, direct language. It ignores aesthetic, letter B, not formal or realistic or factual. B, aesthetic.
B, aesthetic. Now we move to the second part of vocabulary, which is phrasal verbs. Mr. Fadil Aboud, start please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Phrasal verbs and prepositional phrases. Exercise A. Match the underlined phrasal verbs with their meanings from A to E. Number 1. Could you read back my son's letter for me? Number 2. Buyers should read over the contract before signing it. 3. The nurse read off patient's temperature from the thermometer. Number 4. He has been reading up on the World War II. Number 5. The teacher is reading out the names of the students.
Yes. Ms. Ola, read the meanings and then we do the exercise.
Okay, number 1, could you read back my son's letter for me? Okay, read back means to read out aloud something that is written down.
We have a call from Adam. Good afternoon, Adam.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm fine, good.
What is your question, Adam?
I have a question about the exam.
Yes, about the exam. What is it?
In the writing section,
Writing section, yes.
are we going to have questions or hints to write about?
You mean the composition, Adam?
About
The paragraph.
The paragraph.
Yes. Okay. Yes, students are going to have hints to talk about, and every hint has a mark. You need to cover all the hints given in the exam question so that you can take the full mark. If you miss one of the hints, the student may lose marks. Is that your question's answer?
Yes.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adam, for calling. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Ola?
Okay, so read back means to read out aloud something that is written down. Number 2, buyers should read over the contract. Read over means to read something carefully from the beginning to the end.
Letter D.
Yes, letter D. Number 3, the nurse read off patient's temperature from the thermometer. It's letter A, to read information that is printed on something. And number 4, he has been reading up. Reading up, it's letter E, to spend time reading in order to find out information about something. And the last one, the teacher is reading out the names of the students. It means to read aloud from a list.
To read aloud from a list. Thank you so much. Now we have an exercise to choose A, B, C, or D. Mr. Fadl Aboud, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The little boy was reading the ingredients of the biscuits when his mother videoed him. A, on, B, off, C, over, D, up. The correct answer is B, reading off.
Reading off. Something printed. When you read something printed, you read off. Number 2, Ms. Ola
Number
Moued.
2, as soon as the patient arrived at the hospital, a doctor immediately read his temperature over. A.
Read his temperature.
Read his temperature over. He read carefully from the beginning to the end.
Which is over.
A,
Letter A.
over.
Letter A. Mr. Fadl Aboud, number 3.
My elder brother is engaged in reading up the economic success of Singapore. A, up, B, back, C, off, and D, on. Of course, the answer is letter D, on. Reading up, on.
Reading up on.
In order to get information.
Thank you. Here are the answers, and we continue with number 4, Ms. Ola.
Number 4, the company representative read the contract before she signed it. Letter A, off, B, back, C, for, or D, over. It's letter D, over. Read over the contract.
Number 5, Mr. Aboud.
The babysitter had read the story 3 times before the kid fell asleep. A, off, B, on, C, back, D, over. The correct answer is C. Read back means to read more
again.
than one.
Yes. Here are the answers, and then we move to another exercise, which is match each verb with its corresponding noun and complete the sentences using the correct form of the verbs. Ms. Ola?
Okay, now they have to match, and they need to memorize this verb with this noun. Because, for example, when we have a noun like a lift, what do we use with a lift? Give a lift. Give a lift, it means to take someone with you in the car.
Give a ride.
Give a ride, exactly. Temper, when someone gets angry, they might lose their temper.
Lose temper.
Yes.
Become angry, yes.
Exactly. Now with an effort, we need to make an effort to do something better.
Do an effort.
Yes,
Yes.
make an
Make
effort.
an effort. Sorry, make an effort.
Yes. A risk, to run a risk. Run a risk, something that is not completely safe. And with taxes, we can raise taxes. It means make people pay more money. Expectation, you need to meet the expectation of someone else. Someone is expecting you to do something. Now you meet the expectation. So they need to memorize these verbs. They cannot use different verbs with these nouns.
Yes. Here are the answers. Lose temper, run a risk, raise taxes, meet expectations, give a lift, make an effort. Mr. Fadl Aboud, the first exercise. Choose A, B, C, or D, please.
Thank you. Number 1, our boss often gets angry and his when things go wrong. A, lose temper. Sorry, A, run risk. So sorry.
Lose temper, yes. It's then run risk.
And the risk.
C,
make
makes
an
an
effort.
Meet
And D,
an
give a lift.
expectation and give a lift.
Give a lift.
The correct answer is meet expectation. Sorry, lose temper.
To lose
Lose
temper.
temper.
There is a problem here, sir.
Yeah, it's okay. So number 1, our boss often gets angry and loses his temper when things go wrong. Number 2.
Number
Ms.
2,
Ola
if she
Al-Muayyad.
never posts anything on her personal website, of alienating her fans. she raises taxes, she loses temper, she runs the risk, or she meets the expectations. The answer is to run the risk. She's running the risk of alienating her fans.
She's running the risk of alienating her fans. Yes. Now, number 3, Mr. Fadel Aboud.
Politicians often think the government should, in order to get more money to spend, A, make an effort, B, raise taxes, C, meet expectations, and D, give a lift. The correct answer is B, the government should raise taxes.
Raise taxes in order to get more money to spend. Yes. Number 4.
Number 4. The new clerk didn't his boss and was fired after only 2 months. A, run risk, B, raise taxes, C, give a lift, or D, meet expectations. The clerk didn't meet the expectations of his boss, so he didn't meet his boss' expectations and was fired. It's
Yes.
letter D.
Mr. Aboud.
His car broke down, so I him to the nearest garage. A, lost temper, B, gave a lift, C, ran risk, and D, raised taxes. Of course, if he needs to go to somewhere, I will give him a lift.
A lift.
The answer is B.
Thank you. Ms. Ula, number 6.
Number 6, not everything happens on its own sometimes. You have to get things done. You have to make an effort. It's letter D.
Yeah.
Not raise taxes or meet expectations or give a lift. It's make an effort. Sometimes you have to make an effort to get things done.
Thank you so much. Here are the answers for 4, 5, and 6. Now we come to grammar, which is a very big concern for the students. Actually, grade 12 students have taken this grammar from maybe the beginning of learning, maybe from grade 9, maybe from grade 8. And now we are going to have kind of revision and to simplify it for the students. Miss Ula, will you please start?
Okay, now with the conditional, we have 2 clauses. We have the if clause and the main clause. With the second conditional, the if clause has to be with simple past. So with if, we have simple past. With the main clause, we have would plus infinitive. And it refers to imaginary situation in the present. So we are talking about the present, an imaginary situation that is not happening, but it's not impossible, but it's imaginary. Now, for example, if I had enough money, I would buy a Ferrari. I don't have money, but if I had money, I would buy a Ferrari. So it's not impossible.
So it's imaginary.
Yes, I'm just imagining.
Time is present,
Exactly.
but it is unreal.
Unreal.
Since it's unreal, we use the simple past.
Yes.
Actually, let me just say something.
Please.
We have 4 types of conditional sentences. We have type 0 and type 1, in which we talk about real things in the present. But the difference between type 1 and type 0 is something that happens
General.
always, frequently, a habit or a fact, something that it's not only one time. It happens frequently, so we use simple present in both sides.
If you water the plants, they grow.
In the if clause and in the result clause, it is simple present both sides. Then we come to type 1, which is more common now in the baccalaureate book, which is we have simple present with if, and we have will in the second part. And in this case, we talk about something real,
specific,
and in the present. Now, when we are talking about something in the present, but it's not real, it's imaginary, we use type 2, which is our concern for this seminar. We use if plus simple past. I repeat again, time is now, but it is imaginary, it's not real. That's why we use the simple past, and in the result clause we use would. Students need to know that when the first part is if with simple present, the completion should be either simple present if it's type 0 or will
future
plus infinitive if it's type 1. Now when it is simple past with if, the completion should be with would. Yes.
infinitive.
Ms. Ula, will you continue?
Okay, now about the use. When do we use it? Conditional sentences type 2 refers to something not
True.
Sorry, refer. Not true about the present or future. It's imaginative. If I had enough time now, I would visit my aunt, but unfortunately, I don't have the time. We have to pay attention to something that is confusing for some students. In formal English, we usually use were instead of was in second conditional. For example, in the if clause can be the first, the second in the or the second the sentence.
Can't see very well.
Yes.
Well, so
but it's not wrong. So they can use
they
was,
can use
but it's
was
informal.
and were. The formal is were, and the informal is was. And actually, in all cases, even when you are giving advice, you can say, if I was you. Some teachers say that it should be, if I were you. Yeah, it's more common. But if I was you is correct, and if I were you is correct.
So they can't have them in the choices. The
difference is only where is formal. What do we mean by formal? Formal is when you are talking to presidents, to kings. In formal meetings, you cannot use if I was. But in spoken English, it's okay to say if I was. Both are correct.
Okay, the last notice is that we can start with the if conditional or start with the main clause. But when we start with the if conditional, we have to write comma.
Comma, yes.
The comma after the
we
first
said we have two
part
parts.
of the sentence.
The first part starts, if it is starting with if clause, we put a comma, then we put the result clause. When we invert, when we start with I will buy a Ferrari if I have enough money, here
no need for
we don't need comma, but even if the student puts a comma, it's not wrong, but it is needless. Mr. Fadil Aboud, will you continue, please?
The second part is about conditional sentences type 3.
Type 3.
Here we use if plus past perfect, not the past simple. In the main clause, of course, and we use would plus have plus past participle in the second clause, which is called the main clause. In fact, conditional sentences refer to imaginary situation, but in the past, not now, as the case in the first conditional. Oh, sorry, the second conditional.
Yes, actually, when it is in the past, it's always unreal.
Impossible.
It's always unreal. But since we use the past perfect, students need to complete with would plus have plus verb 3.
Verb 3.
Continue, please. If I had had enough money,
for example,
I would have bought a Ferrari.
Yeah. For example, if I had had enough money, I would have bought a Ferrari. Now, let's talk about the form. If clause, main clause, or main clause if clause. Here we are talking about which clause we are going to start with. In fact, there is no difference, as we talked before.
Except the comma.
Of course. If plus the past perfect, would plus have plus past participle. For example, if I had found her address, I would have sent her an invitation. There is nothing new to add.
Yes. And we can say, I would have sent her an invitation if I had found her address. So we can invert, we can change, we can start with the result clause at the beginning. Yeah. We don't need to put a comma in this case.
Now, concerning the use, conditional sentences type 3 refer to something not true about the past. They are truly hypothetical and unreal. For example, if I had had enough time yesterday, I would have visited my aunt. In fact, I didn't have time yesterday, so I couldn't visit my aunt, or I could visit her.
Sometimes students get confused when they see had together. The first had is the auxiliary. Had we use with all verbs.
Yeah.
It could be if I had known, if I had visited. So had is always used in the third conditional as an auxiliary verb. And the second verb, in this case, it is have.
A main verb.
And the verb 3 of have is had. That's why it's if I had had enough time yesterday, I would have visited my aunt. Miss Ula?
Okay, now we have a note. With the first conditionals, we can use when instead of if, when it's more likely to happen. For example, I give you a lift into town if I finish my work in time. When I say if I finish, it means I'm not sure. I'm going to finish. But when I say it this way, I'll give you a lift into time when I finish this work. So I'm sure that I'm going to finish this work, and I'm sure I'm going to...
It's more likely to happen.
Exactly. With unless, we use unless to show a negative condition with a similar meaning, if not. For example, unless she had fastened the seat belt, she would have been injured. So she had fastened the seat belt. If she hadn't fastened, we can have it this way. If she hadn't fastened the seat belt, she would have been injured. Instead of using negative, we can use unless.
Thank you for the clarification of unless and when. Yes, unless is used for negative conditional sentences. We come to the exercises. Mr. Fadel Aboud.
The first exercise is to choose from among A, B, C.
Okay, C.
Number 1, I'm very unhappy if my friends don't come to the party. A, I would have been. B, I will be. C, I would be. Here we are going to look at the second part of the sentence.
Yes.
The second part is the if clause. If my friends didn't come, so here we have the past simple or simple past, sorry. We are going to choose would plus the infinitive be.
Would be. Exactly. So for the students in the exam, they need to look at the either if the given part is the if clause, look at if it is simple present, we are going to choose will. If it is simple past, it is would. If it is past perfect, it is would plus have plus verb 3. Number 2, Ms. Saula.
Number 2, your brother wouldn't have found such a nice job if he university diploma. Now we start with the main clause, not with if. And here we have wouldn't have found, so this is type 3. A hadn't had, B didn't have, or C doesn't have. It's letter A because it's past perfect. Hadn't had. If he hadn't had a university diploma.
Because we have wouldn't plus
have found.
Wouldn't have found. Found is the verb 3. So would plus have plus verb 3, it's type 3.
Type 3.
And type 3 needs to take the past perfect. Number 3, Mr. Fadel Aboud.
Thank you, sir. If you had come in time, you the lesson. A, wouldn't miss. B, wouldn't have missed. And C, won't miss. In this sentence, we started with the conditional part. So we're going, and it is in the past perfect.
Past perfect.
And we're going to choose would plus have plus verb 3. The letter B is the correct answer. Wouldn't have missed the lesson.
Wouldn't have missed the lesson. Thank you so much. Number 4.
Number 4, people wouldn't have crossed the Bosphorus if these bridges. Letter A, haven't built. B, didn't build. C, hadn't built. Now again, people wouldn't have crossed. Wouldn't have crossed. So would have and past participle. So the second part is hadn't built C, letter C, because we need again type 3. Past perfect.
Thank you so much. Before we continue, let's elaborate.
Okay.
How many types do we have?
We have 4 types.
4 types.
Type 0, which is something true and happens frequently, not only one time. Like when say, if the weather is nice, we go on a picnic. Is simple present and go is simple present, so it is type 0. If the weather is nice, we go on a picnic. The same thing, the same real thing, if it's only one time. Like when we say, if the weather is nice tomorrow, in this case, it's not something that happens frequently, it's only one time, so we say will. If the weather is nice tomorrow, we will go on a picnic.
So
this
students,
is type 1.
Need to pay attention that even if they don't have the first and, 0 or first conditional, they are required because they already have these.
Of course, in the exam, they may be asked about all types. Thank you very much, Ms. Ola, for saying this. Students, you have been learning English for 12 years. The baccalaureate exam can have questions from all these years, not only things inside the book, because it is the B2 exam, and you are supposed to answer all types of questions. So you need to know about all types 0, 1, 2, and 3, although in the book it's only 2 and 3. Type 2, as we said, something imaginary. We use simple past with if and would in the result clause. It's unreal, but the time is now. I will give 2 examples for real and unreal. Mr. Fadl wants money. I say, if I have money, I will give you some. Here it's something real. Really, if I have money, I will give you. I will see in my pocket if I have money, I will give you some.
And I really want money.
We all want money, and you will be lucky, actually. Now, if I don't have money with me right now,
I won't be able.
And I'm not going to give you any money, I would say, if I had money, I would give you some now. So the time is now, but since I'm not going to give him because I don't have, it's unreal. Because it's unreal, I say, if I had money now, I would give you some. Now, the same thing, if this happened yesterday, so always in the past, it is unreal. And when it is in the past, we use if plus past perfect. If I had money with me yesterday, I would have given you some.
So it's impossible to happen again.
Yeah,
so
it's impossible.
It's
If I had known the answer, I would have told you. If I had known that you wanted to come with us, we would have taken you with us. But it is impossible.
It's over now.
Where did we stop, Ms. Saula?
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. Whose turn?
I think it's
Your
mine.
turn, yes.
Okay, so it's not a... You would have some money in your pocket if you ate so generously. A, wouldn't spend, hadn't spent. C, didn't spend. It's now very clear that we are going to use didn't spend because we started with would plus an infinitive.
Thank you. I just want to say something to dear students. We said would have verb 3, right? Here, the word have is not auxiliary.
We don't have past participle.
We don't have verb 3. So when we don't have verb 3, it's a main verb. It is
Type
not
2.
type 3, it's type 2.
Type 2.
We care for would. Notice, there should be verb 3 to consider it type 3. Here, have is a main verb, not auxiliary. How do we know it's not followed with verb 3?
Yeah.
It's followed with some money. It's followed with a noun. So it is a main verb meaning possession. Number 6.
I like this sentence. If I in debt, I would quit my job. A, I'm not. B, weren't. Or C, hadn't been. The answer is letter B. If I weren't in debt, I would quit my job.
We all would.
So you don't like your job. You're going to
No,
quit your
I
job,
do.
but you are in debt.
We love it, but we are all in debt nowadays.
No, sir, we are imagining that she is not a teacher.
No,
a,
she's not
a
teacher.
question. Can we say if I wasn't?
Of course
Yes,
we can,
but
but
it
this
is
is
informal.
informal.
It is informal.
It's informal. If I were.
But it's okay, and teachers need to know that it's okay.
We have a call from
Alexander Eid?
Alexandra.
Yes.
Good
Alexander,
afternoon.
hello.
Alexander, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
We are very well,
Doing
and
great.
we are better now for you since you are calling. What's your question, please?
I have a question about pronunciation.
Pronunciation, yes.
Yes, it's about silent letters.
Silent letters.
What kind of questions can we have about silent letters?
You will have 4 equivalents, 4 words. One
Yes.
of these words has a silent letter. You know already during the academic year. In the exam, the question is going to be which word has a silent letter? Like
Yes.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You are going to choose Wednesday. It has a silent D. Okay?
Thank
So you are going to be given 4 words. Only one of them has a silent letter, and you are supposed to choose it. Is it clear?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Ula, you were saying something?
No, Now we're going to talk about pronunciation and silent
Pronunciation.
letters.
He is with us. Alexander is with us. So he talked about pronunciation. And in this exercise, we have silent letters
Or a mute letter.
or mute letters. We mean we don't say the letter
At all.
when pronouncing the
The word.
word. Whose turn?
I can't remember. The same.
Okay, Mr.
It has
Fadel
no
Abdul.
difference, sir. Okay, in these words, we have some silent letters we are not going to say or pronounce while reading the word. The first one is logically. So we don't say logically, it is logically, and the A is silent
Just
here.
let me clarify something, if you
Yeah.
allow me. We are teaching British English, not American English. British English. And sometimes it is different in American English. So what we are going to talk about now is British English. So sometimes in American English, maybe the pronunciation is different. We are dealing with British English. Yes, logically, it's not logically in British English, we say logically.
Yeah.
Continue, please.
The second word is climb. We can see that the word climb has a letter B at
B
the
is
end
mute.
of it, so we don't pronounce the B. Climb. Muscle,
Muscle, not muscle, yes.
yeah. Wednesday, not Wednesday.
Yes.
Make, not makey. Calm, not calm. Half penny, not half penny. Alight, not alligate. We can't pronounce
Yes.
it at all if we want to pronounce GH here.
Doesn't work, yeah.
Exhaust, not exhaust. Business, not busyness. Knife, not knife. Mnemonic, not mnemonic. So even me, I can't pronounce it with
Difficult to
M.
be pronounced, yes.
Autumn, not ottoman. Sword, not sword. Castle, not castle. And colleague, not colleague.
Actually, it's colleague. It's colleague. The stress is on the C.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is
Colleague.
the American accent in the I'm sometimes mixed
Okay,
between the
don't
two
worry.
accents.
Now, it's not a big problem for the students. You may have these words, but you are going to have only one of them with other three words, and the silent letter is in these words. You need to learn them by heart and to know that they have silent letter. In the exam, when you see them, you choose them to have silent letter. Choose A, B, C, or D. Choose the letter that is silenced in the word rhyme. Ms.
Okay.
Saula.
In the word rhyme, of course, in the exam paper, it's not pronounced, so they need to be familiar with the pronunciation. Is it letter R, H, Y, or M? Rhyme, we mute the letter H, rhyme. Number two, which word has a silent letter, the way you were mentioning? A, calm, B, put, C, correct, or D, post. We have calm with the silent L.
So number two is a typical exam question.
Exactly.
You may be asked, Alexander, the same way, which word has a silent letter, and you are going to choose calm. We come to writing. Writing is very important, although usually the exam is covering mostly reading and writing. But we need to be skillful in the four skills, the listening, the speaking, the reading, and the writing. In the exam, Ms. Saula, will you talk about writing?
Writing, they have to be able to write a paragraph in no less than 80 words. Now in the books, they are asked to be writing about 120 words, but in the exam, I think it's 80 words.
Yes, 80.
In this lesson, it's about a story that actually happened to you. Now, again, you have just mentioned, sir, that we're going to have hints or questions. So they need to write an introduction and a conclusion, and they need to answer the questions and pay attention to answer all the questions. Otherwise, they're going to lose marks. In this one, we have, for example, the setting. Where does the story take place? Is it in the village, in the mountains, in a city, etc.? Events, it means what happened in this story. I was walking on the bridge, and etc. Heroes of your story, of course, they need to have characters. Every story has a character. And again, we have a moral lesson. We've mentioned before that every story has a moral lesson. So they need to have a draft first, answer the questions, organize your writing with an introduction, the body, and the conclusion. You need to use linking words like however, moreover, and instead of, etc. And it should be coherent.
I want to say something before I give the floor to Mr. Fadel Aboud. The paragraph, dear students, is going to be not like the paragraph in the book. The paragraph in the book is to practice writing. You need to learn how to write sentences first. Then when you combine sentences using, as Ms. Ola said, conjunctions, moreover, then, next, but, and, so, these conjunctions, you need to know how to write a sentence. If you know how to write a sentence, 10 sentences
quite enough
are a paragraph. So don't memorize by heart the writing part in the book. It's not going to come in the exam. Some teachers may say it is parallel, so they write something similar to what is in the book. No, never. It's not going to be like in the book. It's going to be something different from the things in the book. The paragraph in the book is to make you practice writing. We changed this last year, and it's going to be like this because in the past, teachers used to write ready-written paragraphs. They asked the students to write, to memorize it. Then they came to the exam. If the title was changed, the students lost what they had in their minds. So we aimed to have something not the same as in the book to make the teachers teach the students how to write sentences, and when they are able to write sentences, they can write a paragraph.
Of course.
So it's not the same like in the book.
Of course,
something
they can
different.
use the words from the book, expressions
Yes,
from the book.
They are going to use everything from the book, but not the same exercise for writing in the book. Mr. Fadel Aboud.
Yes, sir.
What advice can you give the students about writing before we wrap up?
Well, in fact, let me say that most of our students are not used to read before writing. They read only their lessons. But if they practice reading more and more, they can have some experiences and some ideas to start writing. This is the first step. The second step, reading gives you some experiences. And when you make or turn these experiences into the native language, or the target language, you can write very good sentences. Thank you
so much. Actually, they tell me that time is up. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you.
At the end of this session, allow me to thank my dear colleague, Ms. Ola Al-Mou'i, English Language Supervisor, Tartus Directorate. Thank you so
sir.
much.
Always a pleasure.
Mr. Fadel Al-Aboud, English Language Teacher, Aleppo Directorate. And this is me, Abdul Majid Oghirli, Senior Supervisor and Coordinator of English Language. We wish you all the best. Good luck in everything. Thank you very much and goodbye.